Kale had never expected a mission to go this way. Tasked with repairing a critical energy conduit aboard the royal cruiser of the Yalari, he had thought it would be a routine operation. The humans on Earth had long established trade agreements with the Yalari, an alien species renowned for their elegance and formidable technology. Kale had trained for months to work alongside them, learning their language, customs, and even their subtle codes of etiquette. Yet nothing could have prepared him for the moment he opened the door to the princess's private quarters. The room was spacious, filled with warm golden light that shimmered off crystalline walls. Strange plants in translucent pots exuded a faint, sweet fragrance that seemed to hum with energy. And there, at the center of it all, was the princess herself. She was unarmed, unarmored, and unclothed, crouched over an intricate set of tools and holographic schematics that floated in the air around her. Her shock was immediate and undeniable, her wide eyes locking onto Kale as if he had just stepped out of a nightmare. Kale froze in the doorway. He wasn't supposed to see this. He had been instructed never to intrude upon the royal quarters unless summoned. Yet here he was, and she was there. The seconds stretched painfully. Finally, Kale managed to speak, his voice low and steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. I apologize, Princess. I did not expect anyone to be here." The princess's cheeks glowed a soft pink, an alien equivalent of human embarrassment Kale had studied in his cultural briefs. She snapped her gaze back to the schematics, as if pretending he wasn't there could erase the moment. "This is not the time for interruptions, Kale," she said, her tone both commanding and trembling. "Why are you here?" "I came to check the conduit readings," he explained carefully, taking a measured step inside and making sure to keep his eyes respectfully averted. There were fluctuations that required immediate attention. "I should have announced myself." Her posture softened slightly, though her eyes remained wary. Kale could sense the tension radiating from her, not anger, but vulnerability. It was an unfamiliar situation for both of them. A human intruding into the private life of the most important Yalari figure aboard the ship. "You should have called first," she said quietly, turning to a nearby holographic panel and tapping it with delicate fingers. "This is my private area, even for emergency repairs." Kale nodded, his mind racing for a solution that would preserve both professionalism and dignity. "I will limit myself to the conduits and leave immediately. Nothing else. I promise." For a moment, the princess studied him, her expression unreadable. Then she gestured toward a panel on the far side of the room. "The conduit runs beneath the floor there. It is sensitive. Do not touch the wrong node." Kale approached, careful to follow her instructions. His hands worked quickly, analyzing the readings and making minor adjustments. The LRA systems were more advanced than anything he had encountered, but Kale's training and intuition allowed him to navigate the complexity. As he worked, he noticed the princess observing him, curiosity mixing with residual shock. "You are very skilled," she said after a while, her voice quieter now. "Most humans would not understand this system. How do you manage it so easily?" Kale glanced up, offering a small, respectful smile. "We learn quickly when we are given a chance. And your systems are incredibly logical once you understand the patterns." She tilted her head, studying him. "I underestimated you, human." The words were simple, but in her tone Kale detected something deeper. Admiration, respect, and perhaps a spark of trust beginning to form. It was a rare opportunity, one human seldom received from the Yalari, whose society was structured around careful calculation and hierarchy. "Almost done," Kale said, moving to finalize the adjustments. "It should stabilize the conduit within minutes." The princess exhaled, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. I thank you," she admitted softly. "You did not need to see this side of me, and yet you handled it with courtesy. Kale felt his pulse quicken, not from desire, but from the gravity of the trust she had extended. "It is my duty, Princess, and I would not betray it for anything." A brief silence followed. Kale could hear the hum of the ship, the faint vibrations from engines far below, and the soft rustle of the alien plants. In that quiet moment, an unspoken understanding passed between them. They were both individuals from different worlds, forced together by circumstance, yet capable of forming respect that transcended species. Finally, Kale secured the last connection and tested the system. Green lights blinked along the conduit's interface, confirming stability. He stepped back, hands clasped in front of him. "All done," he announced. The princess rose, her body still partially covered by a thin, translucent energy veil she had summoned for privacy after he entered. "I will need a moment," she said, averting her gaze. Then, with graceful steps, she moved toward a dressing alcove that shimmered into existence with her gesture. Kale understood the cue and turned toward the exit, bowing slightly. "I will leave you to your privacy, Princess," he said. "The conduits are secure." She paused, her hand hovering in the air. "Kale," he looked back over his shoulder. "Do not be alarmed by appearances," she said, her voice calm but firm. "There is more to respect than clothing or position. You have proven that." Kale nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "Understood." As he left, he felt a mixture of relief and awe. The princess was more than royalty. She was intelligent, cautious, and capable of assessing character with remarkable precision. Humans had long prided themselves on adaptability, but in this moment, Kale realized that it was the combination of humility, skill, and respect that had allowed him to bridge the gap between species. Over the following days, Kale found himself summoned more frequently to the royal cruiser, not merely as a repair specialist, but as a consultant, a human capable of understanding complex Yalari systems and navigating their political nuances. Each visit brought small lessons, and the princess seemed to observe him more closely than any human or Yalari peer ever had. One evening, as Kale adjusted the ship's navigational array, the princess approached, her expression unreadable. "You have changed how I see humans," she said simply. "Your presence is different from what I expected." Kale paused, hands stilling over the console. "I am glad to hear that, Princess. We often wish to be more than what others assume." She smiled faintly, a subtle curve that seemed almost impossible to decode. "You have courage, and more importantly, respect. That is rare among humans, Kale." He inclined his head. "And that is something I learned from the Yalari. Respect is earned, not assumed." For a long moment, they stood in silence. Then, without warning, a minor alarm sounded from the conduit system. Kale moved immediately to investigate, his training kicking in. The princess followed, observing but not interfering. The issue was minor, a sensor misalignment that could have caused significant energy fluctuations if left unchecked. Kale corrected it swiftly, and the lights on the console returned to normal. "See?" he said, turning to her. "Humans adapt quickly." She nodded, her eyes gleaming with appreciation. "Indeed. You are exceptional, Kale. Perhaps one day you will teach others to navigate both our worlds as you have." The words resonated deeply. Kale had never sought recognition, yet he realized that his actions, the careful maintenance of systems, the respect he had shown in moments of vulnerability, had bridged an immense cultural gap. Humanity, he thought, had potential that even the Yalari had underestimated. Weeks passed, and Kale continued his work aboard the cruiser. The initial moment of shock between him and the princess had faded, replaced by a steady bond of trust and professional camaraderie. Occasionally, she would allow him glimpses of her private life, not as a spectacle, but as a testament to the faith she placed in him. Cale never abused that trust. Aware that respect was a currency more valuable than any reward, the turning point came during a crisis. A rogue faction had sabotaged the cruiser's secondary engine array, threatening to strand the vessel in the middle of the null expanse, a region known for unpredictable space storms. Cale worked tirelessly alongside the Yalari engineers, navigating systems that were far more intricate than anything humans had ever encountered. Throughout the ordeal, the princess remained at his side, coordinating efforts and lending insight that only someone of her status could provide. At the critical moment, Cale identified a sequence of adjustments that stabilized the engines. The ship shuddered but held, lights flickering back to steady green. The princess turned to him, her face illuminated by the console glow. "You saved us, Cale. Not just the conduits, not just the engines. You saved the ship." Cale shook his head. "We did it together. Your guidance was essential." She regarded him silently for a moment and placed a hand on his shoulder. The gesture was simple, but carried immense weight. "You have earned a place of respect here, Cale, among humans and among my people." In that instant, Cale realized that the shock of the first encounter, the raw vulnerability, the mutual assessment of trust, had led to something far greater than either of them could have predicted. Humanity, through one individual, had proven itself capable of earning respect on an alien world from that day forward. Cale continued his work, not just as a repair specialist, but as a representative of human ingenuity, adaptability, and integrity.